Hi friends, in this video we're going to talk about how to set up WinLogBeat in Windows to centrally store the Windows event logs of multiple Windows machines into a centralized Elasticsearch database, and we can even analyze those logs very easily using Kibana. You can see the content of this video is present in a blog post, and I will leave the link of this blog post in the description of this video. Alright, let's see some slides to make this interesting. So what is WinLogBeat? WinLogBeat is an agent that's installed in a Windows machine, and it will ship the Windows event logs of that machine to the Elasticsearch database. So you can see a simple architecture something like this. You can install WinLogBeat in multiple Windows machines and all will centrally send those Windows event logs in an Elasticsearch database. You can use Kibana or build your own tools using REST API to analyze the Windows logs as per your requirement. And also WinLogBeat can be easily configured using a YML file, and using that you can control what Windows logs will be shipped into the Elasticsearch database. So what type of event logs are generated in a Windows machine? First of all, Windows event log means for every event happening in an OS, you will have event logs generated. That means if your computer is switched on, if someone logs in into your computer, or if the permissions of a file are changed, or if someone installs a new program or a service in your Windows machine, an event log is generated. So these event logs can be useful to investigate what happened in your system. So what kind of event logs can be generated in a Windows machine? There are different types. One is the security logs. So it's related to system safety. That means login attempts, object access, etc. Or else you can have system logs, which is related to system and its components. That means the system has started, shut down, the system time has been changed, etc. Or else you can have setup logs. That means these are logs related to the OS installation or its components. Example, a new Windows patch is installed, something like that. And you can have application logs. That means it is related to software which is installed in the OS. That means you are loading, suppose Firefox, and there is some error. You can see the application logs to see what happened while running the application. So security logs, system logs, setup logs, and application logs. These can be the type of Windows event logs stored in a Windows machine. And what are the attributes of a Windows event log? In fact, just in a while, we will open Event Viewer and show real Windows events. But these are the attributes which will be present in a Windows event log. It can be an event level. That means it's an information, critical, warning, error, or verbose. That means the criticality of the event and the timestamp of the event. The source, that means the program or the Windows component which has actually created the event. The event ID. Event ID is basically the type of event which is generated. That means for a successful login attempt, you can have a particular event ID. For a logout attempt, you can have an event ID. So basically event ID specifies the type of an event. And the task category is basically the further categorization of an event. That means if there is a login through interactive login, there can be one category. If there is a login through remote desktop, there can be another category. So it's basically further categorization of events in addition to event ID. The username of the user who has logged into the machine when the event was occurred, and the computer, the name of the computer during the event. So these are the attributes of a Windows event log. So how can you view Windows event logs in a Windows machine? There is an application called Event Viewer, and if you open that, you can see the Windows logs something like this. There are some options for filtering the Windows logs, but if you want to do complex filtering, or if you want to summarize your logs, if you want to count your logs, it's not that convenient to use the Windows Event Viewer. But for basic tasks or for searching, it's okay. Let's try to open a Windows Event Viewer in our machine. So now let's try to open an Event Viewer. So I'm gonna click on the Windows button and write Event Viewer. So there's an application called Event Viewer. Let's try to open this. And here you can see a lot of logs here. In the Windows logs, you have application, security, setup, system logs. Forwarded events is basically the logs which will be forwarded to another machine. So this is the Windows way of forwarding the events to central system. So let's try to see some security logs here. So if I click on the security logs, I'm seeing a lot of security logs. I'm seeing a lot of event IDs. You can even read about the event log, and you can see there are the attributes which you have talked about: the task category, the event ID, the level is an information level, the user, the computer name, and the log name. So all these attributes can be used when the logs are aggregated and you want to derive knowledge about the Windows events. So ultimately, why do we require Windows event logs? Windows event logs can be used by system administrators or security professionals to investigate about what happened in the system, to debug the security threats, performance issues, errors in Windows operating system, etc. Let us suppose there is a malware in your system. The malware can behave abruptly or do some abrupt things, and that can be tracked using Windows logs. This is just a single example of how can you use a Windows log. Alright, that was about what are Windows event logs. Now let's get to the main topic, how to use WinLogBeat to ship these Windows logs to a central Elasticsearch database. So it's really simple actually. Just download the WinLogBeat zip file from this URL, extract the zip file to the C program files folder, run a PowerShell script, and that's it. You can see your WinLogBeat being registered as a Windows service. But before you run the WinLogBeat service, you need to configure it. Further, there is a file called winlogbeat.yml, and you got to edit that file to configure WinLogBeat as per your requirements to just send the logs which you require. So that's how you can install WinLogBeat. Let's try to do that now in this machine. So we're going to go to this URL where you can download WinLogBeat. So I'm going to click on Windows zip x86-64, which is a zip file to be installed in a Windows machine. After you download the zip file, you can see the folder inside the zip file. Just copy this and paste it in your C program files folder. And I've already pasted the folder here, WinLogBeat, and I just kept the name simple, just like WinLogBeat dash the version of the WinLogBeat. So I've downloaded and extracted the WinLogBeat folder. Now I need to install the WinLogBeat service on this Windows machine, because WinLogBeat is an agent which will be running as a Windows background service. So let's open this folder, and here you can see a PowerShell script called install service winlogbeat.ps1. You need to just run this service. So first open an administrative command prompt. That means the command prompt should be opened as an administrator. So I'm going to click on the Windows button. I'm going to write command prompt and run as an administrator. Now navigate to this folder. So I'm going to copy this path and I'm going to write cd the path, enter. Now I'm in the WinLogBeat folder. Let's try to clear the screen. I need to run a PowerShell script, right? So I'm going to type PowerShell. Now I'm using a PowerShell. Let's try to clear the screen. And now the file name is install service winlogbeat.ps1. If I just click on this, I'm getting an error that running the scripts is not allowed. So if you get an error like this, you got to write something like PowerShell.exe minus execution policy unrestricted minus file and the name of the PowerShell script which you want to run. So let's try to click enter, and now it's going to ask you whether you want to run it or not. So I'm going to click run once. So I'm going to write R, enter, and now the WinLogBeat service is installed. However, it stopped. We need to explicitly start the WinLogBeat service. So this will be present in the services app. So I'm going to click on the Windows button and go to the services, and in the services app you can search for WinLogBeat. So I'm going to write WinLogBeat, and here you can see there is a service called WinLogBeat. You can just right click this and start, but before starting WinLogBeat I want to configure it. So let's try to configure WinLogBeat and then start the service. And you can even see the startup type is automatic delayed start. That means once the PC is restarted, WinLogBeat will be automatically started. Alright, we got to know how to control WinLogBeat. Let's try to configure WinLogBeat. To configure WinLogBeat, go to the WinLogBeat folder, and here you can see a file called winlogbeat.yml. It's just a text file, a YAML file. I'm going to edit it with VS Code because you'll have syntax highlighting and you can easily understand the YAML file. You can even edit it in a notepad if you want. Alright, let's try to see how we can configure WinLogBeat. The first thing you got to see is connecting the WinLogBeat to Elasticsearch database. Here in my services app, you can see the Elasticsearch service running in my machine. So I have an Elasticsearch database running in this machine. If you don't know how to install Elasticsearch in Windows machine, I've already created a video on that, and you can check out that video link in the description. But for now, I got Elasticsearch running in my computer. So I'm going to connect my WinLogBeat agent to the Elasticsearch running in my computer. So for that, you need to search for the section output.elasticsearch. If it is commented out something like this, you just uncomment this. In the host section, write the host name. My Elasticsearch is running on localhost port 9200. That's why I've written localhost 9200. And my Elasticsearch is running on HTTP. That's why I did not enable this. By default, the protocol is HTTP. But if your Elasticsearch is running on HTTPS, you need to uncomment this and write protocol HTTPS. You need to mention the username and password of the Elasticsearch database. So these are the username and password for my Elasticsearch database, and that's it. You can connect to Elasticsearch database using these settings. Alright, we have finished the settings to connect our WinLogBeat to the Elasticsearch. The next thing is to configure what event logs should be shipped to Elasticsearch. For that, you have a section called winlogbeat.eventlogs. You can specify what type of logs can be shipped to the Elasticsearch database. You can see this is the list of objects, and each object can specify an event type. The first object I mentioned here is application and ignore older 72 hours. That means WinLogBeat will not ship the logs older than 72 hours or 3 days. This can be particularly useful if you are installing WinLogBeat today and you don't want last year's logs to be shipped, you just want the latest logs to be shipped to the Elasticsearch database. And then I'm sending the event logs of type system, I'm sending security logs, and I'm also sending Microsoft Windows Sysmon operational. I'm sending Windows PowerShell logs, and here in the Windows PowerShell logs, I'm specifying only these event IDs can be shipped to the Elasticsearch. All other event IDs in the Windows PowerShell logs will not be shipped. One more type of logs I'm sending is Microsoft Windows PowerShell operational, and here the event ID is 4103, 4104. Only these event IDs will be sent. You can even configure your event IDs something like this, where you can mention either single event IDs or you can mention a range of event IDs, and even you can exclude the items in the specified event IDs. That means I have mentioned a range called 4700 to 4800 and I have written minus 4735. That means all these event IDs will be sent, and if there is an event ID 4735, it will be even ignored. Using this minus, you can specify which event IDs to be ignored. So by mentioning event IDs like this, you are whitelisting the event IDs, and by providing minus, you are blacklisting the event IDs. So you can have fine-grained control over what event IDs can be sent. And if you ignore this, all event IDs will be sent for the particular log. Alright, how can we derive a name something like this? Where can I find the name of the log which I want to send? Event viewer can come handy in this situation. So go to the event viewer. You can see a lot of logs in the application and service logs. And here, let's go to Microsoft, Windows, and here we have a log called PowerShell, and in that we have a facility called operational. So this is a log. In fact, it's a log file. You can just right click on the properties, and here you can see the name of the log which you can mention in the configuration file. So here the name of the log file is Microsoft Windows PowerShell / operational, and this full name is to be used in the YML file. So if you want to log these logs into WinLogBeat, just right click on the properties of the log file and then go to the full name, copy this and paste that here in this YML file. We have done that already here, and I've said that each log is actually stored like a file, right? So you can see the log path here. The log path is this one. In fact, let's go to this folder. I'm going to copy it in this folder path, copy, and I'm going to open a Windows Explorer, paste this here, enter, and you can see a lot of EVTX files are being used to store the logs. Actually, in the backend, all the types of logs are being stored as files in the Windows machine. So that's it. We have configured WinLogBeat to specify what logs we need to send, and we also configured WinLogBeat to connect to Elasticsearch database. There is just one simple setting remained, which is the setting up of Kibana dashboards. If you enable this setting, setup.dashboards.enabled true, by default it's false. If you make this true, while starting the WinLogBeat service and connecting to the Elasticsearch database, WinLogBeat will load some sample dashboards and index patterns if they are not already present in the Elasticsearch database. So simply, if you make this setting true, you will have some sample dashboards preloaded which can be easily used in Kibana. So you can even make this setup.dashboards.enabled true. So that's it. We are connecting to Kibana. We have configured Elasticsearch, and we have configured what events to be sent by WinLogBeat. So our WinLogBeat YML file is ready, and we are ready to start our WinLogBeat agent. So I've saved my winlogbeat.yml file and my service is ready to run. So I'm in the services app and I've searched for WinLogBeat service. I'm going to right click and start the service. So my service is running. If your service is not running, or if you get some error message that unable to start the WinLogBeat service, you can even see the logs of the WinLogBeat service. So the logs of this WinLogBeat service can be present in the folder C program data WinLogBeat logs, and you can see WinLogBeat creates logs about how the WinLogBeat agent is running. So if your WinLogBeat agent is not starting, you can just go through these logs to understand why the service is not starting or why the service is not running. Let's just open and see what's there in these logs. So this is just the service logs, just showing how the service is running and what are the events happening. This can be useful to debug why your WinLogBeat service is not running. So we have completed the pipeline and the Windows logs are going to the Elasticsearch. Let's try to see the logs in our Elasticsearch. We have our Elasticsearch database running, right? But to see the data in Elasticsearch easily, there is a tool called Kibana, and I'm also running Kibana as a Windows service in my machine. If you don't know what Kibana is, it's an analytics and dashboarding tool for Elasticsearch. You can easily view the logs and dashboards using Kibana. If you don't know what Kibana is, or if you don't know how to run Kibana as a Windows service, I've already created a video on that, and you can find the link of that video in the description. Alright, our Kibana is running and it's connected to Elasticsearch. Let's try to open Kibana and see the Windows logs. So my Kibana is running on localhost 5601. Let's go there and I'm going to log into my Kibana. Now we have logged into our Kibana. Let's try to see the raw logs. What logs are being sent to the Elasticsearch database? For that, you need to search for Discover here, or else in the sidebar you can go Discover, and in the Discover you can see the logs. And here in this drop down, you need to select the right index pattern. By default, WinLogBeat stores logs with the pattern WinLogBeat dash. So since we have kept the setup.dashboards.enabled true in our winlogbeat.yml file, already you will find a pattern called winlogbeat star. So let's click that, and in the last 15 minutes I've got my logs here. In fact, we have just started the service, so we got logs here, and here you can see each log is a JSON object, and you can see the list of logs along with timestamp in the Discover page. Let's try to expand a single log, and you can see a lot of attributes of the Windows event log being stored in the Elasticsearch database. Let's try to see the raw JSON, and here you can see the event ID, the task category, event type, which is a security, and you can even see the host details, and a lot of details about the Windows event will be stored in this JSON object. This way you will have multiple JSON objects coming continuously into the Elasticsearch database. So if you connect like 100 computers, you can get 100 computers event logs being stored in a central Elasticsearch database. Using this, you can do any type of complex querying or dashboards, whatever you want, because it's Elasticsearch, right? Let's try to expand this log, and here we have seen that there is something called a channel, winlog.channel security. So let's try to see how many logs are generated with the channel security. So I'm going to search here for winlog.channel, and it will be equal to security. You can even see these channels are already present just by seeing the suggestions. You can see how powerful it can get when you use Kibana. Let's try to see security, and let's try to update the query. So in the last 15 minutes I got 130 hits which are of log type security. You can even see what are the event IDs generated. Search for the field names, write event underscore ID, winlog.event ID. Just click on this, and you can see 5379 was the most logged event ID, and these event IDs were also generated. And if you click on visualize, you are taken to a visualization workspace where you can interactively drag and drop and see the attributes of the logs. So we have given a bar chart of winlog.event ID. You can even convert it to pie chart and do whatever dashboards you want. So you can see very easily with very less effort, we are able to do analytics over the Windows event logs, which is otherwise almost impossible using the event viewer. You can even change this time to 1 year or 3 months, which would be very difficult to do in an Excel, but it's very easily to do in Kibana. So this is how you can explore raw Windows event logs using the Kibana's Discover page. You know, we have told that WinLogBeat will install some sample dashboards, right? Let's try to see those. So here I'm going to select dashboard, and you can just search for WinLogBeat, and you can see there are a lot of very useful pre-built sample dashboards being built. Let's try to go to WinLogBeat user logons. Let's try to click on that. So in the last 15 minutes, we are seeing the statistics. You can even go to another dashboard called WinLogBeat overview. It's showing number of Windows events, the events over time, and a lot of useful information in a single dashboard. So this way, WinLogBeat provides some very convenient dashboards. You can even build your own dashboard if you want from the data. So that's it, guys. This is how you can set up WinLogBeat in Windows to ship your Windows event logs centrally to an Elasticsearch database and analyze them very easily using Kibana. You can see I've created a blog post on setting up WinLogBeat and visualizing it in Elasticsearch. I've given you the notes, the installation steps, and some important snapshots so that you can go through this and install WinLogBeat easily. I've also given you links to some references so that you can do further reading. This is the WinLogBeat official configuration guide. So you can go to this link to do further reading about how to configure WinLogBeat from the Elastic site. You can even visit this ultimatewindowssecurity.com. This is a very amazing site using which you can easily understand the purpose and find out what events are being logged in Windows. For example, you can select a category called log on, log off, or object access, and it will show what type of Windows event should be generated for object access. Or you can click on a single event and you can even understand what happens in this event and some more information about this event. So this site is very useful to learn about Windows events. So be sure to check out the link of this blog post in the description of this video. Please ask questions or post your valuable feedback in the comment section. Hope you like this video, guys. Thank you for watching. Peace.